And welcome in, sports fans. Thanks for joining us tonight. You are watching On Deck with DeRo Arch, um, a show that seeks to primarily focus on small college athletics in Missouri or anything athletic wise in Missouri, but kind of in that small college and junior college niche. That's kind of what we try to feature. We will talk about some national things as well, but that's kind of our go-to is Missouri sports. Coach Archer tonight is off in terms of the show. He is coaching tonight. He and his team are hosting a tournament this week, so he is out. So best of luck, Coach Archer, as you guys play tonight. Hope you get a W. Joining us in his place is Tucker Hagedorn. Tucker has worked in the sports industry, sports apparel and sports equipment industry for a number of years. I've known him through my role as a coach and athletic director. He's a good guy and a passionate sports guy. Loves his Missouri teams. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But Tucker, thanks for joining us tonight.
DeRo, it's my pleasure to fill in for such big shoes here with Arch, but I'll do my best. I appreciate you inviting me on.
For sure, for sure. Hey, I'm just gonna touch on college football just really quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, high profile programs, Notre Dame, Ohio State, like from a profile point of view, I don't know that you could have asked for anything better. Possibly a Michigan or an Alabama, but hey, the best of the best in terms of what they bring in totality. From all reports, viewership was down a little bit. Maybe overall interest was down in that game. I watched the game myself. I thought it was a good game, fun to watch. But those reports of hey, maybe it wasn't super popular this year, kind of one, made me wonder what was going on there. And so I was going to maybe throw that your way and get your opinion on that.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I help co-host a show here in Joplin. That's where I'm from. I live here, excuse me, beautiful Joplin, Missouri. And I help a buddy of mine with a daily sports talk show called The Sports Edge. But with my day job, I usually only get 1 or 2 days a week where I have time to do it on there. But we actually were talking about this earlier in the week. My thought is like anything new, when you've got a completely new playoff format like this, or I shouldn't say completely new, but it's quite a bit different when you jump from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff, and it drags out a while. And you know, it's one thing like if you're gonna football in the fall, college football, major college football, small college football, whatever it is, high school football, you're going to deal with the NFL. That's the way it is. But the longer you start dealing with the NFL playoffs, who have owned the month of January, my whole life, I think the trickier it gets. I didn't know you were going to ask me this until like 2 minutes ago, but I don't know if you're ready for this. I actually have a solution in mind. If they ask me, the college football powers that be ask me, which I don't expect to happen, but I think, you expand this playoff. I think you need to get rid of these conference title games, but I understand that they print money off those things. So I know it's not going to happen, but it would be so much better if it would, because the weekend of Thanksgiving is the last regular season week of the year for college football. That's your traditional rivalry games, your Bama, Auburn, the Ohio State, Michigan, all those. Mizzou's played Arkansas on that weekend for,
Right.
Quite a few years now. That's the last week of the regular season. And then the next weekend, the first weekend of December, is your championship game weekend, your Big 12 game, your SEC title game, all that. If you get rid of that, you can start the playoffs a week after the regular season. And then they didn't start the playoffs until 3 weeks after the regular season, because the first weekend was conference title game. And then there was a nothing week, which I understand is Army, Navy, and I get that.
Right.
But they also operate, I think, under the rules of, finals being then,
Right.
which, come on. And so then we don't get the playoffs until right before Christmas. So like there's 2 weeks there that you kind of waste, in my opinion. And if you get this done sooner, and then having it on a Monday night is kind of weird too, I think.
Sure.
I know that the championship basketball game is on a Monday night and has been forever. But that's, I don't know. I think eventually the ratings will be okay once people kind of get used to it. But I do think it drags on a little bit too long.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it just extends too far into January. The format itself, like essentially, it's become a bracket play, format. I personally love that. It takes the AP poll or the coaches poll or the index, computer index, strength of schedule, all those things that they sort of used to rely on. And I've spoken about that on this show previously, so I won't go there. But I do like the format in terms of the bracket play. I agree with you. Let's move that up. And the problem with moving it to a different day, I know that they would say, "Hey, now you're competing with a Saturday NFL game or a Sunday NFL game if you move it to a weekend." But surely,
No, I almost think a Tuesday or Wednesday, oddly, would be better than Monday because you come off all this football all weekend. Like, let me put it this way: the semifinals, when we had a Thursday, Friday a couple weeks ago, when Ohio State beat Texas and
yes,
Notre Dame beat Penn State. So that was the Thursday and Friday before the NFL wildcard weekend.
right,
So after the semifinals, you had NFL wildcard weekend, and then you had NFL divisional round weekend. So you had 2 full weekends of NFL playoff games between the semifinals and the championship game. And it's just kind of awkward. Like, I mean, imagine it like this: in college basketball is more popular relative to the NBA than college football is, I think, relative to the NFL.
that's
But
true.
if the NBA finals were in between March Madness, it would screw that up. And that's kind
Right.
of what. And there's
Yes.
only so much they can do because you're not going to play this in the middle of the summer. I understand that, but
Right.
I just
Right.
think that if they would get a little creative here, and I don't know, you've probably talked about this, and you probably weren't even wanting this much info from me. I actually think it should go all the way to a 16-team playoff,
We
and that
last week with Coach Ryerson, when I had him on, we actually talked about just add 4 more teams and make it 16. We actually mentioned that as well.
that doesn't add another weekend because you're basically
Right.
just 4 weekends. You got the round of 16, the quarterfinals, the semifinals,
Yep.
and the championship game. 4 weekends, but again, if you don't starting this thing until, I mean, college football sweet spot, even though the 4-team playoff was a 10-year run, basically, the college
Yeah.
football sweet spot has always been New Year's Day or right around New Year's Day, and that's a quarterfinal weekend, which can be a good weekend. But if they can move this thing up a little bit and get at least the semis, if not the championship game around New Year's Day, the ratings I think would be much better.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I'm going to jump ship here and go to NFL. I'm going to start on the NFC side. Obviously, we got NFC and AFC championships this weekend. I'm going to start with NFC. Got the Commanders, a bit of a surprise, or at least to most, versus the Eagles. You know, as I look at this, and hey, I'm not a great football guy in terms of, you know, obviously I understand it, know how to play it a little bit, but a lot of scheme and that kind of stuff I'm not great at. But to me, the Eagles sort of represent maybe a yesteryear football where they're going to line up, put a bunch of guys on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to hand it off to a feature back, and they're going to they're going to win or lose with the feature back. Uh, Commanders, obviously, they're kind of more, current in their offensive system. Um, so with that, for me, this is kind of a contrast in styles, game wise, and I haven't even referenced the defenses yet. But you know, Eagles, Commanders, I don't know where I land on who wins this game, but I do think this contrast in styles for me is intriguing.
Yeah, 2 old NFC East rivals. When I was growing up, in the '80s, they were Philly could never quite get over the hump with those good Buddy Ryan defenses.
Right.
Washington was always good. They were a model franchise in the '80s when I was a kid,
Right.
and then lost their way for a long time. But they've certainly re-energized that fan base, and yeah, I mean they're one game away from pulling off doing something really uh, really spectacular and that nobody really saw coming. I'll tell you, like in the off season, I actually did um, throw a little wager down on Washington to make the playoffs with some pretty good odds. I actually threw one on them to win the division, which didn't happen. Um, yeah, this Jaden Daniels kid, man, I saw him. I went to the LSU Mizzou game,
Mhm.
fall of 23 in Columbia, and Mizzou had a pretty good defense that year. And I mean, they had good receivers too, of course, LSU. But man, that kid, he's he's really talented. And what I like about him is how poised he is. Um, Philly, you're right though about the old school, man. Again, growing up, 80s and all through the 90s, even too. Like, if you were a diehard sports fan, football fan, like you knew every team had a feature back, or
Yes.
almost every team, like 2/3 of the league at least. 20 teams. If you followed it, you could name who their starting running back is, and if they were healthy, they were probably going to get 1,000 yards.
Right.
And those were guys like drafted in the first round, and guys that were on TV commercials and on
Yeah.
posters, and I mean, we know all the names who they were, but Eric Dickerson, for me, Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton, and then that morphed into Marcus Allen even though I couldn't stand the Raiders, I actually always liked Marcus Allen, even before he came to the
Sure.
Chiefs. And Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and guys even way below them. Those are Hall of Famers I mentioned, but there were like other really good backs in the league. Everybody had one. And for the last, 10, 15 years or so, there's been very few of those guys. And Saquon Barkley, now that he's been able to stay healthy, and most importantly, with this offensive line, Philly's offensive line, I think, is the best in the league. Them or Detroit, and I'd probably give the nod across the board to Philly. Yeah, and Jalen Hurts, the Eagles quarterback, is banged up, and honestly, they haven't asked him to do that much. I still think I've thought all along that one of these, to get through the whole playoffs, they're going to need more out of him. I think they're going to need. I think they're going to need more out of him Sunday for them to get to the Super Bowl. And if they do get by Washington, I know they're going to need more out of Hurts to beat either Buffalo or Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, uh, and if you had to pick one, like, if I put you on the spot right here, 10-second answer, who do you have in this one?
Thought about it. I got Washington. I really think they're going to go in and win. And I think their defense is going to play. I think Dan Quinn's going to have something to limit Barkley. And I think Daniels will make enough plays. I really honestly think Washington's going to go beat them.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Hey, I'm just going to hit this really quick. The Lions lost. Uh, we all know the story of the Lions, and culture change there. And hey, kudos to them for turning it around. Both their coordinators, offense and defense, they've been whisked away to other teams and become head coaches, and great opportunities for them, obviously. Uh, there's and hey, I'm not trying to get too far into it, but there is some views out there that those guys were distracted. Those two coordinators were distracted in their prep time and getting ready to play their game because they were sort of fielding phone calls and potential interviews and that kind of stuff. Do you see that as a possibility? And if so, does the NFL need to sort of step in and govern that a little closer?
Yeah, I do think it's possible when you have two high-profile, in-demand coordinators like that. I've heard it discussed before. It's kind of tough because if you wait till all the way after the Super Bowl to let anybody hire people, I mean these guys, these football coaches at every level, and a lot of them, and I know a lot of them personally. I'm talking like local high school coaches. I know how detail oriented and how um, just particular they are about schedules. I
Sure.
mean, these guys now, I guarantee you, there's high school football coaches around here have their schedules out for the summer. Most of them do, probably. I guarantee you. So imagine at the NFL level, and they act like that's way too far into the draft process. That's the feedback I've read before. So I do think it. I wouldn't be surprised if that played a part in it. But again, I think it's kind of a tricky solution to fix that.
I agree. It will be interesting just going forward to see what the NFL approach
Yeah,
is on that, or if they just stay hands off.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm going to switch to AFC here before we go to break. Chiefs and Bills, for me, it's kind of the current classic football matchup in the NFL. Like that Chiefs Bills rivalry has some teeth in it, has some substance. You could make the argument that they might be the two best teams in the entire league. I'm sure Philadelphia and Washington would have something to say about that. But obviously those two are really, really good. I'm going to go this way with this one. If the Chiefs are to win, how do they accomplish it? How do they go about it?
Now, thing is, I think there's more than one way. But the thing that I think would help them the most is win the turnover battle. And there were no turnovers in their game last week. Houston and KC, no turnovers in that game. Buffalo won the turnover battle last week over Baltimore 3-0. When KC played up in Buffalo earlier this year, KC lost the turnover battle 2-1. Buffalo turns the ball over, I think, less than anyone in the league, or amongst the very fewest. The Chiefs, who were, kind of out of character for them, turning the ball over a lot earlier in the year, have gone, I think, 8 straight games without one. And if you're the superstitious type, sorry, I mentioned that. I'm not superstitious, but I heard this stat the other day, and I didn't write it down. I heard it, and so I'm not going to get it exactly right. But it goes kind of something like this. In Buffalo's games this year, and whether they're on offense or defense, the ball has hit the ground, I think 28 times, something like that, upper 20s. So the ball's hit the ground 28 times. And of those 28 times, Buffalo, whether they were on offense or defense, has fell on the ball like 24 of those times.
Wow.
And that's not like that's luck, it just is. Like now Buffalo not turning it over, not throwing interceptions is not luck. Right. But the ball hitting the ground that many times, which is not an absurd number of times in that many games, but for them to fall on it, whether they were on offense or defense that many times, the numbers are a little out of whack there. So, sure. And the Chiefs haven't turned it over much lately either. Okay. But I think the ball's hit the ground like 19 times in the Chiefs games, and they've fallen on it about half the time, which is what you'd expect. So I don't think I don't think Buffalo's enough better, if any better, than Kansas City to where the only way the Chiefs can win is if they win the turnover battle. But I think at home, as evenly matched as they are, I think that's the easiest answer for you is win the turnover battle. I know that's cliche, but I have this gut feeling that there's a couple coming in a good way for the good guys.
So without using that rationale in reverse, how do the Bills win the game?
They win the game by running the ball and stopping the Chiefs' run. And this is old school football stuff here, but the Buffalo, you can run on Buffalo if you're really physical. And the one thing the Chiefs, since they moved Joe Thuney out to left tackle, which I understand why they did that. They had to get Mahomes comfortable in the pocket and keep him from getting hit 12 times a game. And that's largely accomplished that. But in the 4 games that Thuney's played left tackle, that means you've taken arguably the best guard, or at least one of the best guards in the league, and put him at tackle. And you got Mike Caliendo playing left guard in his place. The Chiefs' run game has gone almost in the toilet. They've not been nearly as effective running the ball. And the way the Chiefs like to run the ball, especially without Thuney at guard, it's a different running scheme, and they're not as physical, not a power run game like what Baltimore does, which did create problems for Buffalo. Now the Chiefs, with Andy Reid and Mahomes and those guys' brilliance and creativity, they can win without running effectively. I think it'd be a heck of a lot easier if they can run the ball. But Buffalo, if they can run the ball, and if there's a huge difference in the run game, unless it's like a turnover circus, then Buffalo's got a really good chance, I'm afraid.
Gotcha. it will be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
And it stands to reason that it would come down to the fourth quarter again. I mean, those games tend to do that. I can't see any way that this one doesn't follow suit. So
And if it does, the Mahomes thing in the fourth quarter is one thing, but we saw this last year, and I remember mentioning this before the divisional round, the playoff game in Buffalo last year where the Chiefs won. Is and I know he's had some injury trouble and stuff, but in if it gets to be a fourth quarter game, especially being at Arrowhead, again, if you're the superstitious type, maybe don't listen to this 10 seconds or knock on plenty of wood. But in the fourth quarter of a playoff game at Arrowhead, I would put everything I got into Harrison Butker over Tyler Bass, Buffalo's kicker. And we saw that last year. Butker knows that stadium. He knows the wind patterns, and he's clutch. And he's made a lot of big money field goals for the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yes, he has. Should be interesting. Can't wait. I think it's a great matchup. And hey, both sides, NFC, AFC, I think they're great. It's just really, really good this year. And the Commanders, they're just so intriguing, right? I mean, that's just the wild card in there. And so for me, that's really, really exciting. And
three football games left. So if you're a hardcore football fan, you got these two Sunday and then the Super Bowl. That's it. So
well, and back to the Commanders. This isn't John Riggins' Commanders, right? I mean, this is a whole different deal. So just really, really cool for that franchise to flip the script and turn that around a little bit. So
I agree.
I'm going to take us to break. When we come back from break, we got an interview coming up with men's basketball coach at North Central Missouri Junior College. Their basketball program up there right now is flying high. They are doing some great, great things there. Nationally ranked, in fact, ranked number one in Junior College Division II. And as at the airing of this show, they're undefeated. So we're going to get a chance to interview him on the next segment. So we'll come back to you with that after the break. Again, thanks for joining us here with On Deck with DeRo Arch, and that comes to you under the Missouri Sports Network umbrella. So thanks for joining us. One of our featured sponsors is a program called You Are Strong by Angie Wiley, and Angie specializes in mental sports approach and mental sports conditioning in terms of just using your mind to be a better athlete. And so she's got a fantastic program. I've actually been through that. So if you get a chance to check that out, it's called You Are Strong. We'll be back after these messages. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in a few.
Hi, I'll have the avocado toast minus the avocado.
So, toast.
Yeah. Everything is so expensive these days.
Hey, Chevy gets it. That's why they're keeping prices down to earth, like on the most affordable EV in America. A super strong and capable Chevy truck.
And a high-tech Chevy SUV.
Why is Chevy making affordable vehicles connected by OnStar? It's so together we can do more.
Imagine a bank that goes where you go, creating seamless solutions for every step in your financial journey, allowing you to manage your money the way you want to, with a banking relationship that makes every day extraordinary. Imagine a world full of possibilities, always within reach. Central Bank. We do banking better.
And welcome back to On Deck with DeRo Arch. We're coming to you tonight with a special interview. We try to focus this show a lot on some area colleges in Missouri that maybe don't get the recognition that they should, or maybe that just fly under the radar a little bit. And tonight we've got a story to tell you a little bit. I'm going to visit with the coach from North Central Missouri Junior College tonight. Coach, thanks for being with us. And before we dive into your team and what you've accomplished, let's just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your path basketball wise. And then after we do that, I'm going to talk specifics about your program.
Yeah, appreciate that. And thank you so much for for having us and thinking of us up here in North Central. And we really appreciate this. It's an honor to be on here. And thank you so much for everything you guys do for the state of Missouri and for small colleges and especially the basketball programs and stuff. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm a Missouri kid. Grew up in Hamilton, Missouri, so a small town in Northwest Missouri. Penny High School is the name of the high school, and they've had some recent success with some stuff. None of that when I was there, but we were good, but not that good, and in a lot of ways. And so really fell in love with the game of basketball because my dad was a basketball official for Misha for 30 plus years, and so I kind of followed him around when I was a little kid, and just kind of got to go to a lot of high school gyms and got to be around a lot of really cool officials and a lot of really cool coaches because of that. So that's kind of how I started my love of the game of basketball and stuff. And so went on and played at North Central Missouri College, played junior college for 2 years, where I'm coaching at right now. And then after that, I moved on to Central Methodist University, NAIA school, right in the middle of Missouri, right by Columbia, Missouri, and Fayette. And so went there, did that, and then got into coaching. I'm a business major, but always loved the game, always very competitive, and just found my way into coaching, and I've been doing it for the last 14 years now.
Yeah, that's great. This is going to sound really coachy, but I think fellow coaches they kind of enjoy hearing the story, right? The story behind the guy, right? That's doing it right now. So it's always fascinating for me to hear. And one thing that I hear very often is how many times dad was behind, leading us to coaching. And same was true with me. My dad was an educator and athletic director and, just all those things. And so my love for the game probably was an offshoot of just hanging out with him all the time. So that's
cool.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, your team, last I checked, and you may have played since then, 19-0, ranked number 1 in Division II junior college. Hey, wow. What a start for you guys, and kind of at the midway point, probably maybe a little more than that, but hey, you guys are playing well. I went and kind of checked your scores a little bit, and hey, not only are you winning, but hey, you're doing it convincingly most nights. So here's where I'm going to start, and then we're going to come back to some people that are listening to the show and that don't have a ton of experience with the JUCO setting. It's kind of a different experience altogether, and I'm going to have you sort of fill us in on that, but sort of maybe tell us some of the benefits and the wins of being and running a junior college program, and then maybe share with us maybe some of the challenges and the things that maybe people wouldn't expect or have no idea that exist.
Yeah, for sure. And first off, I think JUCO probably gets a negative rap or connotation, and shows like Last Chance U and stuff are great, but I don't think that's like that's necessarily the complete picture of junior college athletics and stuff. And so I think they kind of get a negative rap from probably years past and all that stuff. But man, my experience with junior college has been amazing, and it's just it's a great avenue for kids to continue their sport that they love, continue their education and grow both as a student, as a person, and as an athlete and stuff. And so the typical probably stereotype of a junior college athlete is they don't have the grades to go on to a 4-year school or to make it at a 4-year school and stuff, and right away. And that does happen. We certainly have some kids that come to us because they need to improve their grades or need to become qualifiers to go to a 4-year school. But that's not all our guys. A lot of our guys are here because they're looking for another opportunity or maybe more exposure than they had. So we have some small town Missouri guys. We got guys or maybe guys that are looking to improve their strength. And they said, they could really play basketball, but they need to add some strength before they can play at the 4-year level, or just add experience or whatever. So we get a lot of guys for a lot of different reasons, not just academic stuff. And so, yeah, junior college is just a great way to get on the floor and play as a freshman, as a sophomore, and get that experience, that college experience, whereas you might not get that at the 4-year level right away.
For sure. One of the things that perhaps has changed, and you can fill us in on this, before the last couple of years and transfer portal and all those things, 4-year colleges would bring in kids that they were planning to keep for 4 years, right? And so you would take this 18-year-old kid and you would have him for 4 years. You'd build him and shape him. The difference prior to the portal with junior college was, hey, these are 2-year guys and they're in and out. And so the notion was that you're always replacing at the junior college level, right? That was kind of the thing. I think now you're replacing at any level. I don't think 4-year colleges are much different than junior colleges in terms of, hey, it's new bodies every year.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of coaches I've talked to 4-year wise and stuff. They're saying, man, how did you do this all the time? Because that's what they're used to. Now they're not used to that. Now they're having to do that. And they're going after portal kids. They're going after older kids, which is, I hate to see it for the high school kids and all that stuff.
Sure.
And that's where we come in with giving them opportunities and stuff. But yeah, it's they're replacing 9 to 10 kids a year, where you're right. Back in the day, they kind of had that farm system where they'd have 4 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 4 juniors, 4 seniors, and just kind of work their way up. And now it's, finding now kind of the saying is you get old and you stay old, and you try to find older guys that can come in and compete right away. So,
absolutely. You and I talked off air. I'm just going to throw this your way. And I mentioned about the different venues that junior college teams play in. And oftentimes that, junior colleges may not have their own auditorium, gym setting. Some do, some don't. Just fill us in on that. What do you guys do there, first of all? And then just percentage wise, when you go to somebody else's place, is it really on campus or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, those are good questions. And well, first off, we have an amazing facility up here in Trenton, and we are probably the exception with a lot of that stuff because we have great home crowds. We're in a smaller town, and we have a great backing, probably because there's not a whole lot else to do around town and stuff, and so we get a lot of support and some major crowds at our games, and have an awesome facility. That's not the case everywhere. It just depends. We played in some high school gyms before. We played in some rec center gyms before with that. And, I think that, even with some of our region teams and stuff, the gyms aren't always available for those schools to participate in and to practice in and stuff. And we've even played in like AAU facilities and stuff for some games and everything. So, but yeah, I think just like we'll go to bigger metro schools, and they only get a block of time a day for their athletics to play or to do all that stuff. Where a traditional college, you can probably use the gym anytime you want and get extra work in and all that stuff. So, so there's definitely some interesting gyms we've been in. Definitely some interesting road trips that we've made and all that stuff, which again builds character, and it's fun to tell the stories a couple years later.
For sure. So I mentioned your team, this year's team, 19-0, ranked number 1. I'm headed to the question I'm headed with is, hey, what does postseason look like for you? I'm going to reference last year. If I have it correct, you guys were an Elite 8 team last year in terms of your playoff run. Every year's different, coaching perspective. Every team's different. The path is different. Opponents are different. let's just start with this. Kind of what's the format? Where could you potentially play, and how does that
Sure.
look?
We're and so NJCAA D2 is in their second year of even having at-large bids. Before that, you could be 30-0 and lose in your district championship game and not make the national tournament, which is crazy and stuff. So with the success we've had so far and stuff, nothing still is. We still got to go out and earn quite a bit this last month and a half to even hopefully receive a bid or receive an at-large bid and all that stuff. So how it goes is there's 16 regions in NJCAA Division II basketball. The Division I has a couple more regions than us and stuff. I think they have 24 regions. With that, I could be wrong on that. So 16 regions. So there's 16 automatic qualifiers for the national tournament, and then there's 4 at-large bids. So there's 20 teams total that make the national tournament every single year. So not too many. I think there's 152 teams in NJCAA Division II right now. So, we're in the Missouri region. There's 4 teams in the Missouri region. There's us, St. Louis Community College, Metropolitan Community College out of Kansas City, and Jefferson College, which is a little south of there. So we're in a small region. So our region goes on, and if we can win our region, or whoever wins our region plays the region of Arkansas. So North Ark's probably the closest junior college to Springfield area and all that stuff. And so we would play them in a game to see who would win and to go on to the national tournament that way. So and then the 4 at-large bids get picked after that. So it's not too big of a field. The national tournament's in Danville, Illinois.
I saw that,
which is which to us is a beautiful place to be in March. I don't know if it is for everybody, but
right.
It's an awesome place, and they do a great job hosting the event, and so it's a lot of fun. So, and if you're a basketball junkie, it's pretty neat because you got 8 games a day for a week.
Wow.
They play out first through 8th place. So even if you lose the national tournament, you play on and stuff, and so it's pretty neat.
That's
a lot
cool.
of basketball.
That is, that's good. Hey, you and I kind of prepped a little bit, just briefly. I kind of gave you some questions that I might ask. This one I didn't give you, so putting you on the spot here, and then we'll close this. Give me 3 or 4 words, 2 or 3 words, or catchphrases that you think sort of define your program and what you try to do there.
Yeah. I hope this reflects us, and I hope that, people agree and all that stuff if they watch us play and all that stuff. I think the first thing is we try to be relentless. We try to be very aggressive, both offensively and defensively, and just be relentless in everything that we do and how we approach games, practices, all that stuff. We just try to play super, super hard. So we try to relentless, and then hopefully some positive energies in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
So we try to be really positive with our guys, and our guys might not tell you that all the time, but we try to remain positive. Big high five guy, all that stuff. So relentless, positive energy, and then just basketball wise and stuff. We really try to share the basketball and make it a team game that way. And so we talk about that before the season and during the season is everybody's going to have an identity and when we go into games, how are people saying that what our identity is, or can you spot their identity if we've practiced or we played a game and you watched us, would you be able to tell us what our identity is? So we try that.
Yeah, that's cool. Last question for you that puts you on the spot, and I'm not going to let you backpedal on this one, okay? So are you an offensive guy or are you a defensive guy, and you can't say both?
Yeah. So I'm an offensive guy. Guy. But with that, we like to generate our offense with our defense,
right?
And stuff. But
here comes the softening, right?
Yeah. So our 3 things that we try to harp again, I guess we got more 3 things, is defend, rebound, run. Rebound, run, and stuff. And we want to play fast. We still want to move the basketball and not just shoot it too fast, but we want to play fast. But I mean, we practice offense more than we practice defense. So I'm not going to lie to you there. Defense is super important. We got to be really good at it. But, I think we probably focus on offense a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put you on the spot there. So
yeah, I like it.
well, hey, we appreciate your time, Coach Esry, and it's been good. Like for me, and this is just selfish. This is it. I'm not even talking about the viewer right here. I just love visiting with coaches and seeing their reaction to questions and how they sort of infer things and the way they go about things and so obviously you're doing some really good things there, and so hey, a credit to you and your kids. And it appears that this is not just a one-time thing, right? This is repeated success.
We hope so.
And so you deserve some credit there, and you'll do like most coaches do. You'll defer and pass on the credit to your kids, but which is more than appropriate. But somewhere along the way, there's got to be a guy sort of running the show and making those decisions. And so, congratulations to you as a coach on a job well done there. And from the show here, best of luck to you going forward. Hey, if you do make a run at national wise, maybe come back and visit with us. We'd love to hear a little more.
Love to do that. Yeah, love to do that, and I hope we can do that. And again, really appreciate you having us on and thank you for shining light on junior college basketball. Again, thank you for all the small college basketball coverage, but definitely encourage anybody listening, if you got a chance to go watch junior college basketball, I think I'm biased, but I think you'd be impressed with the product out there. So we appreciate it. And, thank you. And I'm tuning in now for every episode.
Well, super cool. And the piece that you mentioned to me, that sort of the fact that I could go to one location and watch 8 really competitive games in one day, right?
Oh,
The best 8 teams out of 150 schools, right? Like
Yeah.
all in one gym in one day. I mean,
all in one gym, and you're going to see guys that are on TV the next year, and some really good guys, and from all over too. Junior college. We don't go into California; they have their own stuff. But Pima College out of Arizona is really good. There's colleges, Davis and Davie out of North Carolina is really good. So you get a whole different variety of coaches' philosophies, styles, all that stuff, which is really neat.
Well, awesome stuff, and good to hear. Congratulations to you again. Thanks for joining us. And hey, we'll check in again with you maybe later in the season and get an update.
Hope so. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Hey, we're going to take it to break right now. When we come back, Tucker and I will sort of dive into some local college, Missouri College highlights, and fill you in on a few milestones by a kid from William Jewell and one from Columbia College. So stay tuned for those things. It's been good to visit with Coach here. We're going to take it to break, and we'll be back after these messages. Thanks for joining us.
We believe banking should make your life greater. It starts with affordable options to meet today's needs and tomorrow's dreams. From smart account options that fit your style to flexible loans for what comes next. It means convenient ways to access and manage your money whenever you need it and wherever you're headed. Most of all, it takes great support. Someone you can count on for trusted guidance and to be there for you every step of the way. Great options, great convenience, great support for life. Great Southern Bank, understanding what really matters.
The Walnut Street Inn is located in the heart of Springfield on historic Walnut Street, just blocks away from the Missouri State Campus, Hammons Field, Great Southern Arena, and downtown Springfield. The Walnut Street Inn features newly remodeled rooms, breakfast served daily, and a friendly, accommodating staff. The Walnut Street Inn is also a great venue for private events. Book your stay or get more information at walnutstreetinn.com or call 417-864-6346.
And welcome back to the third and final segment of the show tonight. Really cool interview in the second segment there. So if you didn't get a chance to catch that, please go back and pick that up. Men's basketball coach at North Central Missouri, having a ton of success there and doing some really good things with that program. They were Elite 8 last year in JUCO Division II, and undefeated this year, number one ranking, and headed places this year if all things continue on. So be sure and catch up with that interview. Really cool material there. Tucker Hagedorn is joining me tonight. He is in place of Darren Archer. So Tucker was with us in the first segment. Tucker, we're going to jump right to some local college or Missouri College news and sort of some updates. I'm going to start with some Division II news in the GLVC. I mentioned them last week. Missouri S&T is playing really well right now. They are 15-1 on the season and undefeated in the GLVC. Their coach, Bill Walker, who's been there since about, I think, 2019 or so, is doing really great things there. I think Coach Walker actually played at Missouri S&T, or UMR probably, as it was known during the day. And I've actually reached out to Coach Walker and messaged him a little bit. So we're hoping to maybe get him on sometime in the next week or two and visit with him and catch up with the Missouri S&T basketball.
Yeah, I looked up his bio. He coached at the University of Minnesota for a little bit, and spent some time on A&M staff as well. So he's pretty well traveled, and he coached at UAB, or he's a GA. I think that was his first job. This would have been under Gene Barstow, who I believe was head coach at UCLA after John Wooden.
That sounds right, and I did know that. Yeah, I knew about the UAB ties. So I would love to catch up with Coach Walker. He actually returned a phone call to me yesterday, and I haven't got back to him. So, Coach Walker, if you're listening, I'd love to have you on the show and learn more about Missouri S&T basketball and what's going on there. Staying within the GLVC, Missouri S&T is number one. Also, kind of in the mix locally, Rockhurst is 6-3 in the conference, and University of Missouri St. Louis is 6-4. Both those teams are kind of in the mix. Conference basketball and college basketball is a long haul, and so if you're sitting at 6-3 or 7-3 or something like that, man, you still got a shot because you're playing minimum 2 times a week, and sometimes you'll even hit a Monday, Thursday, Saturday rotation on the college scene. So even a week can make a real big difference in a conference race in college basketball. In the GLVC women, I'm just going to highlight a couple of teams there. Drury women, they just keep on doing Drury type things. They're 12-4 overall, 8-1 in the GLVC at last I checked. Missouri S&T women, they are also playing well. They are 10-4, 5-3 in the conference. Going back to Drury, they actually play 2 games in 3 days, conference games on the road. So they will play Thursday and Saturday, 2 conference games, 3 days. So they'll know a little bit more who they are after those 3 days. I think they play University of Indianapolis and Illinois Springfield in those 2 games. So good luck to the Drury Lady Panthers as they continue on in the GLVC. Moving forward, MIAA men. Just going to reference them again. Washburn undefeated overall, undefeated conference play. Obviously, they are absolutely the team to beat. I'm not sure that anybody can make a run at them. Just the sheer numbers of this and the depth of their lead in terms of the conference race just may prove to be too much on the men's side. So Washburn, obviously not in Missouri, but a shout out to them for doing good things there. Heart of America Conference, men's basketball. We referenced Baker University out of Kansas last week, 14-0 on the year. Really playing well on the men's side, so they're leading the Heart. Locally, in state, Park College is, I believe, 4th in the conference race. Central Methodist coming in at 6th in the conference race, so they are absolutely still in the hunt there. I was going to give you some local highlights here. William Jewell, men's basketball player there, Jordan Germain. He had 45 points, I think, about a week ago in a loss, overtime loss. Had 9 threes in that game. I mean, I think anytime you can throw up 45 points, men's, women's, junior high, NBA, like I don't care, Tucker. You throwing
Yeah.
up 45 points, you can play a little bit.
Yeah, that's a throwback line there. You don't see kids scoring that many points much anymore. Heck, there's some games you barely see the team score that many.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean he's really filling it up that day. So I looked him up. I think he's a 5th-year senior and got some experience. First team all conference last year. So I think he's the real deal there for William Jewell. So shout out to him and his William Jewell teammates. Columbia College men, Colin Parker. And Colin, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I know you're from a high school somewhere in Missouri, but I can't
It's
place.
Montgomery County.
Yes, and I believe you have a brother that played there as well too. I think I've coached some
Person.
yeah, and I've coached some high school basketball on the boys' side, and I remember your names and sort of just knew that you guys were in the mix. But Colin broke the all-time Columbia College men's scoring record just within a week or so ago. And he is 126 points shy of the 2,000 mark. I will mention this. He is coached by Thomas Brock. Thomas is the head men's coach at Columbia College. Um, Obviously, Thomas is from the Southwest Missouri area. If you're from this area, you know the name Thomas Brock. Incredible football player, basketball player. His dad is Skip Brock, one of the all-time just very best coaches locally.
Yep.
And I think Tucker, I think you know the Brock family, or at least have some familiarity with them.
Yeah, Skip, Coach Brock, Thomas's dad. He's actually from Joplin originally, and obviously was very successful, longtime coach, Mount Vernon and Camdenton mainly. He's back coaching at Seneca boys this year in his first year. And speaking of Joplin, there's actually a little local flavor on the Columbia roster. Tommy Hafer is a
Yes.
5th-year senior Joplin kid. He's getting some minutes for Columbia College. And then I remember I was looking this up. Jaden Carasquillo.
Yeah.
I'm not pronouncing that right, but
Yeah.
from Verona.
Verona kid. Yes. Yes.
And I remember him a couple years ago. He was a really, really good local Southwest Missouri player. So you got a couple local kids on that Columbia College roster too. So Coach Brock utilizing the connections down in this part of the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the Verona kid, I won't butcher his name either, but he had a sister that played at Verona that was also very good, and I think was played collegiately as well. So little town of Verona, Missouri, putting out some basketball talent down there.
Yeah, and a D1 kid several years ago, if you remember.
Yes, yes.
The Twies, JJ, I think, was the one that played at Bradley, and I believe played in an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and one of my favorite guys in coaching he just retired from Verona, but Brad Stewart is his name, and so any of you viewers that know Brad, he just retired from Verona last spring. I think he picked up got out of teaching, but picked up a job at Wheaton. He's coaching high school boys basketball at Wheaton, but Brad's absolutely one of the good guys in the coaching fraternity. So, Brad, shout out to you if you're listening to us tonight. That kind of wraps up the highlights that I had for the small college basketball scene. I'm going to hit the national scene a little bit, and then I'll take us out of there. Mizzou basketball, 15-4 on the year. Some what I would call signature wins in conference. KU, Florida, beat both of those teams. Lost this week at Texas. That one, I don't know if it surprised me or not, but obviously it was hopeful that they would go steal that one on the road. I think they next is Ole Miss. I think that's coming up next for them. Mizzou basketball, just in general, and I know you're a Mizzou sports fan through and through. Hey, signature wins. Early schedule was maybe not super strong, but hey, body of work is 15-4 with 2 signature wins. Like, okay, where do they fit right now?
Yeah. So, it's much welcomed after last year where Coach Gates in his second year, 0-18 in the SEC, and that hung with him. That hung with the program all summer. I never imagined that after the initial success he had 2 years ago in his first season, where he got an NCAA tournament win, had a really good team. I think that one of his best coaching moves might have been to decide to redshirt Caleb Grill last year, who was a transfer they got from Iowa State. Grill played a little bit early and then got injured, and like he could have come back and played, but he would have gone over the medical redshirt threshold. And a lot of people just thought, well, whatever. Like, I mean, I know I thought this. I was like, well, okay, great, but who cares? Like, let him play and maybe win a couple games. Like, he's probably not going to come back anyway, and he's just okay. And Grill, even though he doesn't start, he plays starter minutes and shooting 47.5% from 3-point land. And this is a high volume shooter, averaging 12 a game, in the best conference in the country, because the SEC in basketball is by far the best league they've ever had. There's some people that think it's the best college basketball conference, like in any single year ever. But Grill's been sensational. And one thing I like about this team is, and I'm no basketball expert, X's and O's, not close. Like you and Arch, like, no, I'm not. But I do love watching Missouri basketball. I love watching college basketball, period. But one thing noticeable about this team, that even some of the decent Missouri teams over the last, basically since they've gone to the SEC, like Konzo had a couple decent teams. The team 2 years ago in Gates' first year was decent. But I was always wondering, even before the SEC got good at basketball, like even 8-10 years ago, some of the Frank Haith and Kim Anderson teams, I'm like, okay, we're not that good, but like, and the league's not that good. But even the bad teams in the SEC have 2 or 3 like NFL, and I mean like NFL looking dudes, like high-end athletes.
Right.
And I always thought Missouri doesn't look like they're physical enough to compete in this league consistently. And Gates has some high-end athletes this year, some guys that can play above the rim, and guys that are just more physical and don't get pushed around, because they've had like a couple of Konzo's teams were skilled and decent. And Gates' team 2 years ago, I thought pretty skilled, but would just get pushed around by the more athletic teams of the league. This one, I think, is a little tougher. I think they're a little more athletic. I think they can compete down on the blocks a little bit. The game Tuesday night was Missouri lost 61-53.
I think it was an 8-point game. Yeah.
Yeah. And only the second time all year they didn't score 75. And in the other game, they didn't score 75. They scored 68. So, I mean, it was just kind of a ugly offensive night, but that's going to happen some in this league, especially on the road. And yeah, Saturday, they got Ole Miss at home. I'm actually going to the game with a few buddies of mine. We're really excited. 5:00 tip off. And Ole Miss lost on a kind of heartbreaking fashion last night at home to A&M.
All that. Yeah.
So they really want to win too. And Lenardi's, Joe Lenardi from ESPN, his latest bracketology, which I think was either yesterday or Tuesday, had Mizzou as a 7 seed. So they've got a tough stretch coming up here. They've got home versus Ole Miss, which is pretty. Ole Miss is good. Chris Beard, that guy, he can coach.
He can coach. Yes.
Then they're at Mississippi State and at Tennessee. Those are 2 top 10 KenPom teams. And then they host A&M, who they always struggle with. So these next 4 games, honestly, if you can go 2-2, I'm great. If you just go 1-3, the schedule does get a little easier after that, but you don't want to get swept, for sure. But right now they're a tournament team, no doubt. And there's plenty of. The good thing about the league is there's really not any bad losses on the schedule if you slip up some. But I think they need 3 or 4 more wins, however they get them, and they'll for sure be in the tournament. But after last week, I think some fans started thinking, like, forget the tournament, let's start working on our seed. And they're not quite there yet, but much improved over last year. And I've really enjoyed watching them play so far. They are fun to watch.
Definitely a fun brand. I'm going to reference something that you just said that ties into what we said earlier in the show. And when you get in conference play, right, what a difference a week or 10 days can make, right? Because you may play 4 heavies in a span of 8 or 9 days, right? and hey, you're fighting for your life. You're trying to protect home court and maybe steal one on the road. And then if you get beat at home, then you now all of a sudden there's pressure that, oh, now we've got to steal one on the road. We have to, right? And
Yeah.
so I think I I think, and this is probably too coachy, coming from me or whatever, but I think that sort of gets in the coach's head, right? And he passes that on to the players, right? Hey, protect our home court, steal one on the road, right? Well, then when you lose one at home, then all of a sudden
Yeah.
he gets a little tight, right? And he starts pressuring his kids, and just natural reaction, nobody's fault. But the rigors of a conference schedule, and I do not care what level you're playing at. An 8-day stretch, 9-day stretch can absolutely turn you and spur you on, or it can absolutely bury you sometimes.
Yeah. And you look, Missouri's 4 losses this year are all, for those that most people listening to this probably know what I'm talking about because they're probably basketball fans and know like they're all quad 1 losses. So they
Right.
don't have anything approaching a bad loss yet. And you mentioned the win last week, the win at Florida a little over a week ago was such a big win because that kind of it allows them a slip up or two. Like that was such a good win. It was almost like a win and a half, like the way the bracket stuff works.
Right. Yeah. You almost buy yourself when you win one like that. You buy yourself the ability to sort of wash away a bad loss,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how all that works. But I will reiterate again, like that is behind locker room doors. Those things, those are real conversations that happen, right? And so
Yeah.
a, a one game win, a surprising win, or a surprising loss, either one can really change the mood and the approach to the following games. So it's going to be fun to watch Mizzou. I'm excited. I come out of the same era that you do. So hey, I grew up on Sunvold and Steepo and Ricky Frazier, and hey, and then it moved on to Peeler and Crudup and that sort of
Those were
time
my
frame.
guys. Those were
Yeah.
Derek Chivas was actually the first one I
Yep.
remember with the Band-Aid man. That was my
Right.
first like Mizzou uh, kind of favorite player was Derek Chivas. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would sure it the winter's such a long season, and it just for me, I mean, it might be kind of sad that I'm almost 50 years old, but this is true. Like when Missouri's good at basketball, it just get me between football and baseball season a heck of a lot easier. So
For sure. For sure. Well, I think we have come to a closing point here. Tucker, I appreciate you being on with me tonight, and a chance for our viewers that don't know you to get a chance to get inside of your head a little bit. I tell you what, Tucker, and I say this with all respect in the world, he is a Missouri sports guy. Like, I just don't know as many people that are as dyed in the wool in terms of he loves his Royals, he loves his Mizzou Tigers. He is dedicated to our teams. He loves the Chiefs, obviously. So he is a Mizzou fan. So a privilege to have you on and talk about Missouri sports tonight.
well, it was fun. I'm glad you asked me. I appreciate you thinking of me. So
Yep, might do it, and we might have you again. Or what we might
yeah,
do is get Archer back, and hey, and the three of us tackle some issues the next
there
time.
we
How would
go.
that
There we go. Yeah.
hey, get Archer back, and the show gets a lot better. Right now, it's just me and whoever I bring on, who's better than me, probably. But
Uh,
Archer definitely carries us on this deal, so we'll be glad to get him
uh,
back.
well, I
Thanks for joining
appreciate
us,
you.
Tucker.
Yeah. Thanks a bunch.
Yep, viewers, we're gonna leave you for this week. Thanks for joining us. You can check us out on Facebook or Twitter. Video shows up there. It'll also show up on YouTube. Please check out Missouri Sports Network Twitter and On Deck Sports Twitter as well. There's a million ways to view us and check us out. If you know of any stories or local news, players, coaches, teams that you think deserve some recognition, please, by all means, reach out. We would love to feature those teams and give them the credit that they are due. So for Eric, For On Deck Sports, this is Eric DeRossett. I am signing off for tonight. Hopefully, Coach Archer will be back with us next week. But thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
This has been a presentation of the Missouri Sports Network. Thank you for tuning in.